Hello there. Welcome or welcome back to Intended Being, where we help you be the you intend to be. As you can see, we got Carl here. We got Buddy here. They're excited. I'm excited. I hope you're excited because this is the second in a 9-video workshop where we help you develop a vision, a plan, some goals, some habits, all focused on the you intend to be and the life you intend to live. Now, I don't know if you saw the first video. If not, feel free to check it out. Either way, in the first video, we covered several elements that are key to a successful change, whether it's a personal change, professional change, or an organizational change. And today, in this video, we're going to focus on 2 of those elements. One being developing or harnessing dissatisfaction with the way things are right now. And the other one is creating that vision for where you want to go. And we're going to do so based on your basic human needs. So in today's video, what I want you to think about, when you think about creating a vision, I want you to think about how you can't always get what you want. Listen to me. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find, you get what you need. Oh yeah. Okay, I won't torture you with any more singing, but I bring up that song because it makes a couple really good points. First of all, the obvious, yeah, you can't always get what you want. But the more subtle with the lyrics of that song, what I think the more subtle point is even if you go after what you want, a lot of times it's not what you need. Notice how the song really picks up when it talks about getting what you need, not so much what you want. And if you think about it, think about times that you've gone after a goal, or you saved up to buy some big thing, or you spent all this time just trying for something, and when you get it, that thing or that achievement or whatever, you don't feel as good as you thought you would. You're not as fulfilled as you thought you would be. And that's because so often we develop our plans, our visions, based on a lot of noise going on in our head. The daily noise, the jibber-jabber, the judgments of ourselves, judgments from others, expectations, societal norms, thoughts, perspectives, whatever, and perceptions. Whatever it is, it's a lot of stuff that's not really connected to the basic human needs that are really driving a lot of our desires and behaviors. The problem is we're usually not aware of the basic human needs that we have at any given moment. So today we're going to do what's called a needs study. And that needs study is going to be a way that we can dig down and past all that noise and get to the basic needs that are really fundamental to how you're feeling from day to day. So the mechanics of a needs study are pretty simple. And I will be the first to admit that I stole heavily, I mean heavily, from Marshall Rosenberg and his work in nonviolent communication. But I'll get into that in much more detail in the next video series. After this workshop is done, I'll be doing a video series on need studies. And that's because they're useful for so many different areas in our lives. But we'll get into that later. For now, what you need to know about a needs study is that they use Marshall's idea that we can use feelings as a stepping stone to get to our needs. Okay, so think about feelings as these little towers, little radio signal towers in our body and our minds that are saying, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, you have a need, do-do-do-do, please fulfill this need. Or, boop 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 boop. Hey, you just fulfilled this need. Thank you. That feels great. Or maybe it's like AOL. You've got mail. You've got a need. All right, I'm dating myself with that one. But a good example is if you think about our most basic needs for food and water. When you need food or water, you get these sensations in your body. You start getting feelings that go with hunger or thirst. And sometimes it can lead to pretty heavy-duty emotions. I mean, that's why they call it hangry. So you're getting all these emotions and these feelings and stuff saying, hey, you're hungry, or hey, you're thirsty. let's do something about it. And then say maybe, oh, hey. Oh, that's refreshing, right? So after you fulfill your need, you also get these feelings that say, hey, that was great. You know, next time we have this need, please do that again. So these feelings trying to help us meet our needs in the future. The problem is, with our psychological needs, a lot of those are very complicated and result in a lot of different feelings all coming in at once, which usually tends to mean we're just stuck in our feelings and trying to figure out how to not feel so poorly without knowing the root cause of what's going on. So with a needs study, as we'll see in a moment, what we do is we first focus on the feelings, kind of get an idea of what all feelings we're having, that it's going on, and then from there we go down and say, okay, these feelings are connecting to what needs. All right, so let's do an example. Let's start. Now, to prepare for a needs study, first you want to make sure it's at a good time. You want to make sure it's at a time when you can connect to your needs, or you're at least willing to try to connect to your needs. That's important. Also, you want to make sure it's not at a time when right afterwards you have something really important or taxing or something where you need to be really alert afterwards, because sometimes these can be kind of draining. Now, also, a pad of paper or a computer or phone or however you like to take notes. If you're using physical cards, like I'm going to suggest, really useful is using sticky notes, and obviously pen and paper or pens. And finally, you want needs and feelings cards. Now, if you're like most people and you say, Kevin, I don't have needs and feelings cards, don't worry. If you look below where I put the notes, if you click on that More button, it'll open up and show you links where you can find free PDFs where you can print off and cut up your own needs and feelings cards. Links to places where you can buy your own needs and feelings cards. Links to my needs and feelings card videos where I flip through each card one by one through each deck as shown there. And finally, a link to a needs and feelings list. I suggest that as a last resort, though, because as you see when we go through the process, it's kind of important to just look at needs and feelings one by one to see if you connect to them. Harder to do that, I think, when you just kind of skimming through a list. But you can use the list and see if you like it. Whatever works best for you. The most important part is doing the needs study itself. Now, before we begin, I do want to note, I don't know if I have, by the time you're watching this, if I have my PDFs for my cards and a sales link for my cards yet, but there is a difference. I just want to show you that. These are the feelings and needs cards that I started out with. When I started doing NVC, you can see they're well loved by the decks. But as you see with the feelings cards, you know, it's one word at a time, which is kind of what I said. You need to focus on one word at a time. Same with the needs cards, one word or a phrase to be heard at a time. Now, the way mine are different is you still have that one main word. So here, let's say you have the word overwhelmed. But let's say that word is close but not quite right. The way I design my cards is you can get a little more precise. Say, you know what, I'm not really feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling overrun. Right? That's a bit different. So if that were the case, this is why sticky notes, one of the reasons sticky notes are good, then you would just say, you know what, it's really overrun. I'm feeling. Write that down and then put it on there. These cards, I feel like they allow you to get a little more accurate, a little more precise with your feelings and needs, which is important in a needs study. So check them out. You can print out free versions of different decks and see what works for you. The important piece, the really important piece, is making sure the deck works for you. This is all about the language that you use. We all grew up in different areas with different friends that talked in different ways, and we all have different favorite words that we like to use. Right? So you need to make sure your deck uses words that you use. For example, angry. Angry is a word I would use. But I have a friend who, when looking at this card, says, you know what, I can't connect to that word at all. I would never say, hey man, I'm angry. Instead, he would say, I am on tip. So I told him, hey, write the word on tip, or words, put it on a sticky and put it on that card. Okay? Make the deck useful to you. So go through all the cards, go through all of them, look at the different words, and say, you know what, is that a word I would use? Would I ever say I'm hurt? Or would I say I'm something else? Would I ever say I'm cranky? Maybe instead of cranky, you would never say cranky, you would say I'm feeling grumpy. Even if it's already on the card, if it's not the main word, switch it up. Say, you know what, I would never say cranky, but I would say grumpy. My point is, it's so important that you make these decks words that work for you. Otherwise, the need study is just not going to go as well. And you may not connect to cards that, or emotions that really you have going on just because the wrong word was there. When you're starting a need study, the first thing you got to do is figure out what your intention is. Now for us today, that's pretty easy. Our intention is to harness our dissatisfaction with the way things are and to start developing a vision for the future. So once you have your intention set, the next thing is to put yourself in a place where you can connect with your feelings regarding that intention. Remember, feelings are the doorway to your needs. Okay, so with respect to this specific needs study, we need to now take ourselves back maybe over the last few months, the last half year, the last year, however far back you want to go, and just kind of remember some of the feelings you've had, some of the good feelings, some of the bad feelings, and now kind of go into the future. 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years, 5 years, again, however long you want to go, and start thinking about, one, what kind of feelings do I no longer want to have? Okay, and then two, what kind of feelings do I really want to either continue having or just start having? Okay, so once you get yourself in that mindset, just kind of feeling where you want to be and feeling where you don't want to be anymore, then it's time to go to the cards. So when you're going through the feelings cards, the point is you want to pick out feelings that you connect with. You're either connecting with it because it's something you no longer want to feel, you're connecting with it because it's something you felt and want to continue, or something you really want to feel. Now only pull the ones out that you really connect with. Otherwise, you could pull the whole deck out and say, yeah, I don't want to feel these and I do want to feel those. So make sure you go for the ones that you only want to connect with. But also, since we're talking about a pretty big expanse of time, when we talk about, the next 6 months or whatever, expect to pull quite a few out. I mean, you might pull half the deck, 20 or so. And then I'll show you how we group them later to make it not so overwhelming. So I'm going to go through the deck. I'm going to show you the first few, and then I'll probably zip forward, do a fast motion through till I see different cards that are worth taking notes, and I'll talk you through those. All right. First one, guilty. So guilty, yeah, I would like to not feel that so much, so I put that in the keeper pile. Joyful. Oh, well, here's a good example of one I would take a note on. Because joyful seems like I should, but I don't connect to it. So I just wrote something that makes sense to me, should, don't. Whatever you want to write on yours, just take notes so that you'll know what it means later. But I often have cards where in my head I think I should connect to them, but I don't. Like I feel like I should connect to that, but I'm not feeling connected to it, if that makes any sense. Okay, annoyed. So this is one I'm not really connected to, so I put that in like a discard or just get rid of pile. And here's one frustrated. I didn't connect so much to frustrated, but I felt sort of connected to it. But exasperated. That's what I connect to. So even if it's a smaller word on the card, you still want to take note, because later when you're looking at these and you say, oh wait, frustrated, I'm not that connected to it, I can get rid of it. No, it's this other word, exasperated. So that'll remind you as to why you kept the card in the first place. Oh, and here's another example. So hopeless, this is just to show like how over time things change. It's interesting to do this year after year or every so often, because a little while back, hopeless was one that I no longer wanted to feel. I connected to it pretty strongly, and now it's not something I connect to. And here's another one. Vulnerable is a weird one, because vulnerable is usually something you say, oh, I don't want to feel so vulnerable. But for some reason, I'm connecting to it, but I feel like I want more. So that's interesting. This one, it's a word in the middle, but it's also weird because I want more, both more and less of it. Okay, so now that we did that, we want to group them. As you go through to regroup, sometimes you'll realize that a card, like here, guilty versus ashamed, guilty is really what I was feeling. So if you feel that and you're like, okay, this is no longer the main card and I don't feel nearly as connected to this as that, then put it away. So you really want to keep the ones that you're truly connected to. When you're grouping your feelings, don't worry too much about the groupings, because when you go through the needs cards, chances are you're going to end up adjusting your groups anyway. My groups kind of come into, this is kind of my social, family, friends, going on adventure, exploring, and also just resting and feeling at peace kind of pile. And some of the feelings do kind of cross over into professional area in terms of wanting an inspiration and to feel tickled and adventurous. And then over here we have a mixture, feeling energized yet wanting to not feel so frustrated and overwhelmed. This video particularly has been really challenging. I've had a whole lot of issues with cameras and other stuff going on, so it's been a challenge. And then this is just kind of off on its own, like depending on how much I pay attention to news or how often I'm on the highway. That's kind of its own little thing. You'll find that some feelings do cross over into groups that are not related to each other, and that makes sense. It's not like you're only going to have one feeling in one part of your life. So disconnected I have kind of in both the work realm, and then this realm is related to my brother. He passed a number of years ago. And yeah, so yeah, don't worry about it too much. The reason I want you to group stuff is so that it's not too overwhelming as you go through your needs. So you can kind of get an idea of what your overall feelings are, right? It's a lot easier to think of this group of feelings that I want to have with my family and friends and stuff than it is to think of each individual feeling. Same with the work stuff. So once you have your groups together, then it's time to look at the needs cards. So when you do the needs cards, it's pretty similar to the feelings, except now you're trying to connect with needs based on the feelings you see. So there's a couple ways you can do this. If you have a grouping of feelings that's really hitting you, like most important to you, or maybe two groups, probably the best thing to do would be to focus on those and go through the needs deck and see what needs cover those. And then if you have time or energy, which you may not have energy for it, then you can hit the needs for the other groups as well later. Or if none of the groups are really popping out to you, or you're kind of feeling it all at the same time right now, then you can just kind of go through the needs and cover all of the groups of feelings. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. I'll go through the needs cards and I'll have it on fast forward, and then I'll stop at certain times if anything I think is noteworthy. So here we go. The one that really hit me is just to be useful. Yeah, that one really. And I'm still kind of feeling these. Even though I'm feeling this one more, I'm still kind of feeling these, so I'm going to kind of stack this one on top of those and see how I feel about them later. And here's one where pretty much all the words fit. So the main one and all the side words, they all fit there. So that's the needs that I pulled. The next thing you do is you group things by the needs and the feelings. And maybe your groupings stay the same, or maybe they change a little bit. I'd say more than half the time when I do it, the groups change at least a little bit once I add the needs. So I'm gonna group these, and once I group them, I'll come back and we'll talk about what to do with this. So now I've gone through all the needs and grouped them. And as you can see, my groupings are getting a little more defined, but it's going to probably take me a little while to really figure out what's going on here. So hopefully you have a nice big table where you can do this, spread out the cards, and hopefully it's somewhere that you can keep the cards out for a few days. If not, you can take pictures of it so that you can recreate it or look at it on your phone, write it all down on a piece of paper or something, but somehow record what you have and how you have them grouped so that you can come back maybe over the next several days and just kind of play around with it. Play around with how the groups work together, how the groups work with different parts of your life. Does it cover all the different parts of your life? Are there parts missing? Maybe those are parts you weren't really thinking about or you don't care as much about. Or maybe those are parts of your life that are going real smoothly and you don't really need to focus on them. Or maybe you're suppressing something. I don't know. Only you know this. But yeah, so the whole point of this is for you to, again, start harnessing your dissatisfaction for the way things are and start developing a vision for the future. Now, this can be helpful for both. In terms of harnessing your dissatisfaction, you have all these feelings, these negative feelings you don't want to feel anymore. What are those attached to? Start taking notes or drawing pictures or something to capture all the dissatisfaction you have, all the pain, all the negative emotions that are going on now or have gone on in the last year that you don't want to have happen anymore. And make it vivid. However you capture it, make it vivid. Whether you're writing down words, stories, poems, picking songs that kind of remind you of how you feel, or lyrics, picking movies or books, or parts of movies or books. I don't know, if you're super creative, make a sculpture that depicts how you feel, right? That you can go back to and say, God, I don't want to feel like that anymore. And then later on, when we're working on our actual plan and trying to get stuff done, you can look back and say, ugh, I don't like that feeling. I don't want it anymore. It's motivation. And same thing with your vision, right? Start trying to get a picture of what it's going to be like meeting these needs. Don't figure out how you're going to do it yet, but let's say you have a pile that's related to your career and you have different needs. What does your career look like when you're meeting all those needs? What are you doing? Who are you around? What are they doing? How does that feel? Right? Start getting a picture. Or if it's not career, your family. You know, what does that look like when you're meeting your needs? If it's not your family, your friends, or your hobbies, whatever group is most important or is really kind of hitting you right now, start getting that vision going. And again, the more vivid you can be the better. If you're an artist drawing or painting, or even if you're not an artist but you can still draw or paint it in some way that captures what you want, do that. Or again, songs, movies, whatever. So that's what I want you to do over the next several days, is kind of work through these cards in different ways, see how they group together, and see how they can lead to a vision for your future, and also how they can be a warning of the pain that will keep going if you don't change. All right, I hope that makes sense. We're going to come at this from a different direction in video 3. We're going to look at our vision and our dissatisfaction from the point of view of our values and our passions. So kind of coming at the same issues from a different angle. And then that's all going to come together in video 4. We're going to work together in video 4 to really define that vision and really clarify exactly how painful it is to not change whatever it is you want to change. And yeah, that's all I have. Until next time, I hope this was useful for you. I really do. It's a need of mine. So I hope it was useful for you, and I hope to see you in video 3, 4, and beyond. And until then, please do take care.